Take the climate quiz. It's fun. Get a perfect score and feel great that you know about saving the planet. If you get one wrong, no worries. You've learned something from the quiz, and you'll be smarter tomorrow than you were today. I'll start you off with an easy one, then I'll slip in some trickier ones as we go. Here's United Nations bigwig Antonio Guterres to set the stage.
The era of global warming has ended, the era of global boiling has arrived.
Question 1. Global boiling? What is the boiling point of water? A. Fahrenheit 451. B. 212 degrees Fahrenheit. C. 100 degrees Fahrenheit. D. 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Or E. 20 degrees Celsius. Question 2. We breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. So how much of the Earth's atmosphere consists of carbon dioxide? A. About 50-50. B. 10%. C. 2%. D. 0.04%. Or E. 0.0007%. Question 3. If we get 2 degrees Celsius more global warming, we should expect the death rate from extreme temperatures to A. Increase, B. Decrease, or C. Stay about the same. Question 4. What year had the record amount of forest fire burn acreage in the United States? A. 1930, B. 1968, C. 1980, D. 2019, or E. 2023. Question 5. In 2022, which country introduced a cow burp tax to lower greenhouse gas emissions? A. India, B. Kazakhstan, C. North Korea, D. Qatar, or E. New Zealand. Question 6. In terms of potential global warming due to greenhouse gases, what's worse, burning coal or burning natural gas? Question 7. The greenest president. U.S. greenhouse gas emissions reached their lowest level under which president? A. Bill Clinton, B. George W. Bush, C. Barack Obama, D. Donald Trump, or E. Joe Biden. Now 2 history questions based on ice core samples from Greenland. Question 8. According to Danish geophysicists, how do average temperatures now compare to 1,000 years ago? A. It's about 2.5 degrees Celsius warmer now. B. It's about 1.5 degrees Celsius warmer now. C. It's about the same. D. It was about 1.5 degrees Celsius warmer 1,000 years ago. And E. It was 2.5 degrees Celsius warmer 1,000 years ago. And question 9. When was the coldest year in the last 8,000 years? A. 1978. B. 1875. C. 1650. D. 48 BC. Or E. 8,000 years ago. More climate history. In 1988, this story appeared that rising sea levels would cover the island nation then known as Maldives in as little as 20 years. Worse yet, experts predicted people would die as water supplies would dry up in only 4 years. The UN declared an emergency in 1989, declaring atmospheric carbon dioxide was the cause for rising seas. Question 10. Whatever happened to the Maldives? A. It was mostly gone by 2018. B. Now only has about 12 years left. C. Will be gone by 2060. Or D. Don't worry, be happy. So after 10 serious questions, we'll now have 2 wacky situations. Then we'll get to the answers and see how well you did. Here an activist protesting climate inaction in Britain has glued his face to the pavement and is trying to free himself by cutting his hair near his face. Question 11. When asked by a reporter about his protest, he declares, A. It's not one of my better moves. B. We are inspired by Greta Thunberg. C. God save the Queen, her fascist regime. D. It's all Donald Trump's fault. Or E. We need to face climate reality. Here's a story from Euractiv.com, a news outlet partially funded by the European Union. Oyster flatulence worries climate scientists. It says new research revealed that underwater shellfish farts produce 10% of the global warming gas produced by the Baltic Sea. Question 12. Which of these statements is true? A. Writer Sam Morgan knows nobody reads these articles anyway, so he wanted to have some fun. B. Scientists can only get funding by finding a problem they need to solve. C. The European Union pushes fear-mongering, so people will feel the need to keep paying their fat salaries. D. There's a doomsday cult involved that likes to spread depressing Armageddon stories, no matter how unlikely. Now, who's got the answers? Answer number 1.
The era of global boiling has arrived.
The boiling point of water is B, 212 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 100 degrees Celsius, not 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And Guterres gets paid a lot of money to lie about boiling. Answer 2. The amount of CO2 in the atmosphere is D, 0.04%. That's 400 parts per million. Some governments are budgeting money for direct air capture, and that's using giant machines to suck carbon dioxide out of the air to reach net zero. But considering how the air is only 0.04% CO2, that would really have to suck a lot. Answer 3. With 2 degrees more of global warming, the death rates from extreme temperatures will B, decrease. Medical journals report that cold deaths vastly outweigh heat deaths. The Lancet finds that each year, almost 600,000 die globally from heat, but 4.5 million from cold. Author Bjorn Lomborg points out that global warming is actually saving lives. Also, deaths from climate have been dropping for a century. Assuming it would take 50 years to get another 2 degrees warming, in 50 years people could adapt. More people with air conditioning and insulation, maybe build underground where it's cooler, move to cooler places. Less death despite the heat. Answer 4. Forest fires. If you pick D or E, you might have seen charts like this suggesting fires are on the rise. But the answer is A, 1930, when fires were 4 times worse. The official record started in 1926, but attempts to reconstruct the history suggest wildfires were worse before 1920. The Western Fire Chiefs Association says that by far the biggest U.S. forest fires were the Miramichi Fire in Maine in 1825 and the Great Fire of 1910, ravaging Idaho, Montana, and Washington. So beware when politicians blame recent fires on climate change. Answer 5. The country that introduced a tax on cow burps was E, New Zealand. The plan is to raise beef prices so poor people buy less, so the farmer produces less, so he has less emissions. If the farmers go out of business, their emissions go to zero. If people starve to death, emissions go to zero. I explain the strategy further in my video, How to Become an Evil Supervillain. I give the 7 rattlesnake salute to Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister who started the burp tax. Happily, she resigned when her approval rating dropped to 29%. Answer 6. Science. Emissions are worse with A, coal. To produce 1 million BTUs of energy with coal, you get 206 pounds of carbon dioxide emissions, compared to only 117 for gas. Now, some people will say this is a trick question, claiming the natural gas is methane, which traps 100 times more heat than CO2. Not true, but it doesn't matter anyway. To get combustion, you need oxygen. Burning methane causes a reaction, with the carbon from the methane bonding with oxygen to form CO2, and the hydrogen from the methane bonding with oxygen to form water vapor. There's no methane left. I've seen lots of fools on Twitter making this mistake. And Justin Trudeau makes this mistake, blocking Canadian investments in liquefied natural gas. Oh, the CO2! So when the Germans can't buy Russian gas, They just restart the coal plants. Answer 7. Out of the last 5 presidents, U.S. greenhouse gas emissions hit the lowest point under D. Donald Trump. Not that Trump was actually trying. The drop since the Bush years was all a result of the fracking boom, which allowed America to shift a lot from coal and gasoline to natural gas, which is lower in emissions, as we saw in the previous answer. Answer 8. The ice core samples.
We believe that in Greenland, the medieval warm period was about 1.5 degrees warmer on average than today.
So that was D. It was 1.5 degrees Celsius warmer 1,000 years ago.
And if we go back along this axis, it's going back in time. This is the last 8,000 years we have plotted here. On this axis, we have the temperatures at the site in Greenland, and we can see that if we go back from now about 4,000 years ago, we would have temperatures up here for about 4,000 years that were 2.5 degrees warmer on average than today. Now, as we approach our time, we can see that in the period between 4,000 years ago and back to the period 2,000 years ago, which is actually the Roman age, the temperatures have been decreasing in Greenland by 2.5 degrees. Then the temperatures increased gradually up to a maximum point around the medieval warm period, we call it 1,000 years ago. And then temperatures declined and goes down to a minimum around 1650 AD, comes back up a little in the 18th century, and then around 1875 we have the lowest point in the last 8,000 years, right here.
Answer 9, the coldest year was 1875. And now answer 10, whatever happened to the Maldives? The answer was D. Don't worry, be happy. In fact, the islands have mostly gained in size. Sea level rises were overestimated by 300%, and some of the land is slowly rising from the sea. They built airports and hotels, and far from a disaster zone, resorts set up beach webcams to show netizens how nice it is. Answer 11, the Climate Protester.
Do you regret the gluing? Are you
yeah, it's not one of my better moves. Yeah.
So answer 11 was A. And now for answer 12, oyster flatulence. Your guess is as good as mine. Give yourself the point. If you said all of the above, take 4 points. I hope you had fun, but if you bombed, just rewind and redo the test now that you know all the answers. And if you have suggestions for future quiz questions, please fire away in the comments.